Hi, this is Aaron Marcus. Welcome back to the Acting and Modeling Success Summit of 2012. We have Killian McHugh. Very happy to have you on board here today. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Happy to be here.
Good, good. Just so that everybody knows, you can see his information up on your monitor right now. And Killian, he's done quite a few different things, but he's also the founder of the Killian Commercial Workshop in LA, which is a TV commercial class. Now, you began your career as a commercial model, and I remember I was reading in your bio, you actually booked your first audition, which is, that's the kind of thing people dream about. That is true, correct?
Yes, I did. I booked the first thing I came out here for, and that was actually a theatrical film. And then I really made my success in commercial acting, and then got into commercial casting as sort of a side gig, as many actors in LA have side jobs. And then the commercial casting kind of took over my life, and then I began the Killian's Workshop.
And so
to train other actors how to do it correctly. Once I got into commercial casting, I realized a lot of what is taught out there isn't correct because people aren't in the casting industry that are teaching. So once I got into that room every day and was in the room with the directors and doing the callbacks, et cetera, I really found out how to do this correctly. And then I decided to show everybody.
I'm sure it must have been very frustrating on your end as a casting director. You see somebody come in and you're thinking, okay, this person's got the perfect look for this particular commercial. They have everything going for them except for the audition itself. And you're
and
thinking,
that's the important part.
Don't do this thing. If you do this and this, you've got the job.
I would say, honestly, I've been in casting now for 12 years, and I would say on any given day, 60 to 70% of the people that we see have no idea what they're doing in that room. That's why I started the workshop, because it was so frustrating, and I was spending my day teaching everybody. I just decided to just kind of do it as a formal class and get them all in here at once and show them.
Now, one of the things that I know about commercials, and I hear this as well, they can look so easy when you're watching them on TV, and people, everybody says, "Well, I want to become a famous actor. Oh, look, I'll do commercials, but I really want to do act." And I just want to grab them and say, "What, are you kidding? What makes you think that doing commercials is an easy kind of thing?" They look easy because the people doing them, for the most part, are very talented, but they actually are very difficult. Maybe you can just talk a little bit about what are some of the difficult aspects of the commercials, and what should actors be doing to make, give themselves a better chance of booking the job?
Honestly, commercials, I believe, are the hardest medium because, first of all, there is a false sense of I'm making it here, I'm living the dream, because it's much easier to get a commercial agent than it is a theatrical agent, and you're going out every day, and you're auditioning every day, and you're feeling like you're living a dream, and maybe you're booking a couple a year, but that's not why you moved here. So I always teach in my classes to keep the eye on the prize. The big picture is theatrical world, movies, television. This weekend is the Oscars. And so the commercial world is a nice way to subsidize, you take that money and subsidize your artistic lifestyle, your artistic pursuits. And so that's what I try to teach, is to always keep your eye on the prize, the main prize. Now, for commercials, I think it's the hardest medium because there's so much technical aspect involved. Cheating out to the camera so they see your performance. Timing in commercials is crucial because we don't have time. The movie has minutes and hours to create a character. We have 30 seconds. We're shooting 30-second movies. And so you have to understand that time frame. 30 seconds is a very long time and a very short time, but you have to understand that time. And then there's also the selling aspect. You see, when you're at the Groundlings or IO West and doing improv, you can do whatever you want. When you're improvising in a commercial, you can't, because there's legalities involved, and we're selling a product always. The main thing to understand, the difference between theatrical world and commercial world, is that you're never the star in a commercial. The product is the star. And so there's that whole dynamic involved. They don't care, the clients, don't care which person they pick. We just need to sell more cars today, or we need to sell more toothpaste, or we need to sell more gum. They don't care which person they pick to do that.
Now, if it's okay for this segment of the interview, I wanted to ask you a couple of technical things about
Hmm.
commercials before we move more into the actual acting part of the commercials. Um, like for instance, when people come in and they've got the sides, and once again, that's the short those are the words of the commercial. That's the copy in their hands. Now, in
Yeah.
some markets, like for instance in New York, quite often they will have large white tag boards that have all the words on it right to the side of the camera. In some markets, they don't have that at all. How do they do it in LA?
Los Angeles, you never hold your sides, and there's always a board. Now, I actually, being in casting, and I was an actor too. I mean, I still am, but casting is my main thing, and teaching is my main thing. I always thought that it was actually a SAG rule that we had to have a board, and most people in casting think that that's an actual SAG law. I just found out actually last year that it's not a law; it's just an industry standard. So there's always going to be a board in your room, and you never hold the sides in LA. Now, I found out because so many people that I teach, so many people, like people coming from Atlanta or Orlando, that you're actually allowed to hold sides in a commercial audition in some places. That's
Yeah,
not true of LA.
I find that outside of New York, I never have a board sitting there. It's always you just you're handed a piece of paper with the with the sides on it. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
quite a
not
different.
true in LA.
That's interesting. Now, so basically, then, do you have the actors read straight off the card, or do you prefer them to kind of bounce back and forth from seeing some of the keywords and then reading to the camera and then going back and
Well,
forth?
no. Here's how to use the board: is don't use the board. Basically, um, we know there's a board in the room. You know there's a board in the room. The clients know there's a board in the room. Nobody wants to know there's a board in the room. The board is there to be used as a crutch when needed. But you can't just read off a board. And I say this in class, and I say this every day in my life in casting. Reading is not acting, and nor is memorizing acting. You can't just memorize a Shakespeare play and be in it. You can, but nobody will come to the second show. You have to understand what Shakespeare is saying, and then you deliver those lines. It's the same in commercials. It's the same in any medium, I think. To me, in my mind and in my teaching, there's no difference between preparing for Shakespeare than there is preparing for commercial copy. You have to understand what you're saying, and then you deliver the line. If you lose your place, which happens all the time to the best, Meryl Streep forgets her lines, Philip Seymour Hoffman forgets his lines, then you can look over at that board, find your place, and then get back to wherever it is we need you to look.
So basically, your idea is for the actor to have things memorized, and then if they happen to, forget, lose their place, then use it as a resource, but then come right back to
Yes.
camera.
And yes, and now just saying, having it memorized, that doesn't mean to me if you screw up one word or you forget one word that you crumble in front of camera and give up or quit or ask to say, can I do it again? You just keep going. Memorizing it is good to know the lines, but we're not so rigid most of the time. As long as you understand the copy and you give us the points, we don't care that you say it word for word in every audition. Now, sometimes we do, and we have to have it word for word, but for the most part, we're not saying that. But you have to know the lines in order to make them your own.
So then what happens? Let's say, for instance, there are some actions, and this is one of the things that can be so difficult with commercials where, you're supposed to pick something up, drop something off, take a step this way, deliver the line over
Right.
here, and then you come back over here and say another line. When there are lots of actions being asked for, or really any actions being asked for, and you're not given a prop to utilize it with, do you still
Mhm.
want the actor to go through the motions of using those actions, or just say the lines and everybody will understand? Look, when you get cast in this thing and you're supposed to be picking up a cell phone, they'll have one there for you.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for the industry as a whole. Every office is different, but I've worked for when I used to start. I started as an assistant, to the casting directors. Then I became the actual guy who films you. It's called a session director here in LA, and I did that for many years. I worked for every single top casting office in the city, and for the most part, it's the same. we don't like miming in LA. Directors hate miming. Now, sometimes it isn't possible to have something, so we'll say just mime that, but we try not to because directors really hate miming. But so if we here in LA, if you need a cell phone for your scene, we'll put a cell phone in there. We go and we buy props or we make props to make it as best for the actor as we possibly can.
But otherwise, like for instance, there's a scene and you're supposed to be, hugging somebody, kissing somebody. You certainly are not wanting the other actor to, run over and kiss a director or something like that to make the make the scene look.
No, we have. If there's a kissing scene, which does happen in commercials, it's kind of funny. But we have the actors kiss each other.
Got it. So
Yeah.
so you want to see some kind of real connection with the actors who are auditioning for this particular scene.
Correct.
Now, have you ever been in a situation, because I have seen this happen before, where you might have an actor come in who's done mostly theater, and you might have another actor who's done film and television, and they're auditioning together. And let's say they're supposed to be a husband and wife. Now, the theater actor who hasn't had much experience, they're still trying to hit the back row, and they're screaming
That's exactly
these
right.
lines out where it's supposed to be a very intimate kind of scene here. And the other actor, once the theater actor walks out, how would you feel if somebody walks over to you and says, "Hey, I just wanted to ask, can I possibly do this again with somebody else?"
Okay, so that's a really good question, and it's kind of a behind-the-scenes answer in LA. Basically, I think this is a SAG rule. When somebody comes to audition, we have to see them. We're not allowed to take them off the tape, you see. But if somebody's really bad, and just because they're theater doesn't mean that they're bad, it just doesn't, they don't understand this medium. I can always tell, especially teaching now for as long as I have, and doing I've done the workshop now that's 7 years now, and I've been in casting for 12. I can always tell a theater person. And so what we do is we direct them and we try to bring them down. And then if we can't, and it's rare that we can't because that's what our job is supposed to be as directors, casting directors. If we can't get what we want, then let's say there's 2 people in a scene. I would hold one back. I would release the one that isn't giving me what they should or what I want them to, and I would still keep that on the tape. But I would say to that other person that I kept behind, hey, just stay here and I'm going to get you somebody else. So I wouldn't ask. So for your actors, I guess you're asking from the actor point of view, I wouldn't ask to do it again with somebody else. They'll know, at least in LA, I've only acted in LA. If in LA, we can see that it's going badly and we'll get you a new partner.
Okay. And how about as far as dressing for the part with a commercial? If somebody's auditioning, to be a professor, would you like to see them in a tweed sports coat?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to wear what we ask you to wear. The people who are watching these tapes, our clients, they're very, very busy. And they don't have time to visualize you. They need to see instantly that you look the part. And so if you come in scuba gear, but I said tuxedo, my clients, it's not that they don't have the vision to see you in a tuxedo, it's that they don't want to take the time because they don't have any time. You see, they don't care which actor they pick. So actors are coming about it from a talent point of view. I'm so talented, I've studied so long. We don't care about that in Los Angeles commercial casting. It's whoever gives us what we want in that moment. So why would they take the time to visualize you in a tuxedo if you're in scuba gear when there's 180 other people on this tape who wore a tuxedo?
Got it.
So it's more of a business. It's very business here. It's not about hopes and dreams and I've studied and I'm doing all this stuff. That's all great. But what we need to do is sell more cars. And so whoever helps us and takes a note and does what we ask will get that part.
Now, are there any common mistakes that you see as a casting director that actors make all the time that you would like to see changed, or something that can, really help them much more?
I think really just being prepared in that room is the most common mistake. Actors aren't. You know, it's very funny here in LA. If you go to a theatrical casting, you know, for a show or a movie, the lobby with all the actors in it is complete silence because they're all studying their craft and they're working on their moment befores and all the theatrical things you're supposed to do. You come to a commercial casting, and the lobby sounds like a nightclub. Everybody's talking, everybody's laughing, everybody's having fun, and we have to come out of the rooms, you know, 8 times a day and say, quiet down, quiet down, quiet down. We never do that in theatrical world because you would never dare go over to your friend in a theatrical casting and talk to him because you know that he or she is studying their craft. To me, there's no difference in commercial world. And so why is our lobby so loud? And then they come into the room and they don't know their lines. Like if the lobby was a club and everybody's having fun, but then they all came in and delivered, that would be one thing. But to sit out there and have this time to utilize, but to blow it off because, oh, it's a commercial, that really frustrates us. So I think being prepared, I mean, luck favors the prepared.
Yeah. Now, could you also just talk a little bit about some of the different styles of acting that you would use for a commercial as opposed to film or television?
What do you mean by styles?
Well, like for instance, I mean, when you're shooting a film, your face is going to be blown up, you know, 50 times the size in order to fill a screen, and so every slight little minute eyebrow movement is going to be gigantic. And for commercials, I would assume still it's not theater, but it's not quite as intimate as possibly a TV show.
No, we shoot them like films. So it's, you know, it's small for the most part. Small and real is something you hear 1,000 times a day in Hollywood when you're auditioning. Small and real, small and real. We shoot these like film, even in the audition.
So then I assume then
at least in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so then it's going to be very important for somebody to keep that in mind so that unless the character is calling for like really big and over the top, this really has to be a much more intimate kind of process, just like a film or TV audition.
No, it most certainly does. And, you know, they used to say, I think in the 80s, they used to say, be big and the director will bring you down at callback. That's a phrase that everyone knows. It's been around for a long time. That is not true anymore. If you're big when you first walk in, if you're too big, we'll just politely dismiss you, and then that'll be the end of that. We don't take the time to bring you down. So I always tell my actors to err on the side of small.
Hey, I've got to ask you this because I have found, and I don't know if you'd really want to answer this one or not, but I have found that when I go to auditions, the nicer, the more complimentary either the casting director is or the director is, when they say to me, that was great, I loved it, are you available these dates? That was just what I'm looking for. Typically, those are the auditions I never book. Normally, the ones that I book is when they say, all right, thank you very much, next. Those are the ones I walk out and they go, all right, now I got a chance. So
that's funny.
Do you ever find, like, are you saying, like, really nice things to people sometimes just because you feel bad for them because you know they're never going to get the job?
Now, because actors overthink things and then they'll all be paranoid every time somebody compliments them now if we say that. You know, the thing about commercials is, I can't speak for movies and television when they say that, but in commercials, the director meant everything he said just there. He wouldn't say that if he didn't mean it, but we have to then go through the client. So let's say, you know, whatever the product is, it's Chevy or it's Coca-Cola, and the director loves you, and you're the guy, and he says, make sure you're around, I want to shoot you. And then you leave and you feel really great. You should keep that feeling, but the head of Coca-Cola may have decided, no, that's not the way I want to go.
Right.
And so in commercial world, the director is very important, the ad agency is very important, and they all make their top picks. And then it's up to the client, though, who has the final say.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff he said was genuine. I mean, everybody said, you know, to joke about LA being fake and all that. We are to a certain extent. We love our shallowness, but that's true when we tell you those things. But it ultimately comes down to the client's pick.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Hey, Killian, I want to open
Yeah.
things up for some questions. We only have a couple of minutes for that. So, Joel, if there are any questions, please send them through.
Absolutely. So, Killian, Nicole asks, if you want to pursue TV and film in Los Angeles, why should you or not strive for commercial agent? I guess she's asking, should you do commercials if you want to do film and TV?
Because commercials are going to be your in. Unless your daddy owns a studio, or unless you have family money, meaning you don't ever have to worry about a day job, you're not going to make it. Nobody's going to pick you. You can't make it in Hollywood without connections anymore. So agents aren't going to pick you if you don't already have a show on the WB. So your in is going to be commercials because you're going to get shows through the commercials. It's not the old Hollywood where they find somebody and I'm going to make you a star, kid, and they invest in you. You have to come to theatrical agents already having had made money because that's what they care about. How much is this person going to make me? So who's going to put you in a show when you don't have any credits? So what you have to do is book commercials, and then you get a show. So commercials are going to be your in for the most part.
Very good. Warren has a question, and I think this is following up to you, Killian, saying that you needed to be dressed for the part when you go in there. They don't have to use their imagination. He asks, so a doctor's lab coat and stethoscope is required for the role as a doctor when I go in for a audition?
Okay, that's a really good point. Yeah, you don't want to overthink it, but if, like, okay, let's say we're doing a commercial for Best Buy. You know, they all wear blue uniforms. So we would like you in a blue polo. So you dress as best as you can, or cop. The better one is cop. You don't have to go get a whole badge and a gun belt. That's a little crazy, and a hat. But you wear the blue button-down shirt and the black pants, you know? And then for lab coats and things like that, every casting office that I've ever worked for, we all have lab coats on hand.
Well, I can tell you what I do on my end. I don't bring stethoscopes or, tongue depressors or anything like that, but I will bring a lab coat with me, and then I will ask the casting director, is it okay if I put this on?
Exactly.
Every once in a while.
A lot of people, it depends on what you go out for, too. I don't own a lab coat because I don't go out for those parts, but many people who book that, they have their own, and then you bring it, yeah. You want to use some common sense about it, and have the things that you go out for. If you go out for cop a lot, maybe go get that. We have in LA. I don't know about other markets, but we have thrift stores with every costume you can imagine, and they're super cheap here. So actors have lots of those things.
Yeah, and the important, I was just going to jump in for the last thing. The important thing is you do want to ask the casting director, because I have had some casting directors say, hey, I know what doctors look like. I just want to see if you can act. You don't have to put all the stuff on. But, as an actor, I feel more like a doctor when I'm wearing a lab coat. And, like Killian was saying, if it's the client who's making the final decision here, well, maybe that pharmaceutical guy will view me more as a doctor if I actually look like one.
Oh, for sure.
We need to wrap up, guys. I got two more related questions from Orson and Serena. The first is, would you take an actor seriously and book them if they're not based in LA? And a second question, kind of in conjunction with that, what about auditions using video? How does that work? And then we've got about a minute till we need to wrap up.
Okay, so I'll do it quickly in a minute. I take all actors seriously no matter where they live, but we need you here to audition in LA if the job is in LA. So that's just a technical thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you're thought of as a lesser than actor if you're in Minnesota right now. That's just geography. That's where you live. But in order to get bookings here, you have to be here because this is where we're auditioning. And then the second question was what? Dealing
with sending in auditions via the internet.
Video. No, we only do that if the clients require it. That's something that just doesn't exist here in LA. Because you see, the thing about not living here is all auditions come through agents here. So you have to have an LA agent submit for our job, and then we pick through your agent. It's very rare. I mean, it's called real people casting, in quotes, real people, which means people who aren't actors. and we go out and find them in the malls or on the beach or wherever. But for the most part, we put out a breakdown, agents submit, and we pick those actors that are submitted by agents. That's how it runs here.
Great. Hey, Killian, I want to thank you so much. I want to let everybody know, if you do wind up in LA and you are looking for classes, definitely check out his website. It's killiansworkshop.com. It's right on your monitor. And thank you so much. Your information was wonderful.
Thank you so much. Leap and the net will appear. That's what I say every day of my life. Thanks, guys.